Hello and welcome back to another episode of the FPL Show, or as we now like to call it, I've made another fuck up show. I am your I am your host, Matt, and with me, as always, is my FPL BFF, Daniel. How we doing this week, Dan?
Yeah, fucking up right alongside you, Matt. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, you'll be glad that all the Champions Leagues like got a week off because you've
Yeah,
been mad busy, haven't you,
yeah,
with your other
crazy.
podcast?
But it's I've got off to a good start in the Champions League game at least.
I saw
So
that.
that's like a silver lining. And
Yeah.
other people that seem to listen to our podcast have all got off to belters. And I do a spaces with Lewis, who is second in the world on that. So
Jeez.
it's a little less stressful than FPL. It's our wheelhouse. So yeah, it is. It has been insanely busy with that stuff. But I'm actually
Yeah.
quite happy to get onto this because I feel a lot more chilled out about FPL despite my spoiler red arrow again this week.
Well, that's nice. It's nice. I mean, to be honest, I was looking on social media the last few weeks, and from Monday to Wednesday, I just felt like I was just seeing you constantly, whether it was like or hearing your voice. It was just spaces, podcasts, YouTube. You were just everywhere. So yeah, I mean,
Greetings, hopefully as well, Matthew.
I'm essentially just a stalker, like who's like in broad daylight. Just
I take
I'm,
it.
I'm
I've
here
never had a stalker
watching.
before. I've never had a stalker before, so I'm happy to have you.
So just to make everyone aware, it's UCL Fantasy Pod or the main event, which you can catch Daniel talking about some Champions League fantasy content. It's not just all fantasy based; it's a lot of actually intellectual conversation about Champions League football.
Who would
Um,
have thought it? Listen to me on this show.
so yeah, I mean, it is absolutely great content. So give it a check out, and we'll just start by saying as well, if you like this content, please give the video a like and subscribe. We are very close to, I think, 9,000 subscribers. I might be totally wrong there. So help us on our way. Give it a like. Tell your friends. And yeah, if any of this sparks a bit of a thought in your mind, drop it in the comments box, and we'll have a bit of a chit chat with you. So, first talking point this week is Son Heung-min. He started on the bench. Everyone thought avoiding him on a wild card would be a good idea because it was rumours already that Richarlison, Kulusevski, and Kane were going to start in a front three. How wrong they were. He ended up with the same amount of goals as syllables in his name. Is I thought about that all by myself. Um, is Son back as an FPL option?
Yes, he is. Son's like really streaky, so he does go hot and cold quite a lot. The fact that he's just blown hot for me is the biggest indication. Just don't sleep on him. He looks really angry. Like his goals were angry finishes, weren't they? Like the
Yeah,
second one was, despite being very beautiful on his weaker foot, which he was venom. He didn't look happy playing. He was just like, I'm going to go out here and absolutely batter you lot. I mean, it is worth remembering that Leicester are statistically the worst defence in Premier League history after this amount of games.
yeah, yeah.
So obviously they've contributed to that, but they've been conceding fours, five, sixes
Mhm.
all over the place at the minute. So I guess it all depends on how you fancy Spurs' fixtures. I think what's really nice is that even if he doesn't start, he's shown that he will. If he doesn't start, he's going to come off the bench pissed off, and there's probably more likely to score than if he does start. Like, make of that what you will. But if you look at the fixtures, obviously it's not nice next week against Arsenal. Brighton, we don't know how they'll be after Graham Potter has left. Everton at home, which is nice. Man United away, yeah. Then they've got us at home, and I don't know how easy or difficult that'll be for them. Bournemouth, Liverpool, like it's very hit and miss fixtures. But Son is one of those players that it kind of doesn't matter. If anything, I think he probably prefers to play against teams that'll come out a little bit. I don't think you'd like, for example, if they were playing Everton away, where they're just going to sit really deep, or Bournemouth. They've got Bournemouth away. If they had Bournemouth at home, we saw what Bournemouth did with Newcastle. Just 9, 10 men behind the ball at all times. Like Son doesn't suit that. But Arsenal will come out and have a go. Brighton will come out and have a go. Man United will probably come out and have a go. Liverpool will come out and have a go. So although the fixtures may not be great for Spurs, I think they are good for Son.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in terms of what you were saying about him playing angrily, I noticed that as well. It looked like he was just wanting to take shots from absolutely anywhere. And I don't know whether because he's got the quality, he was quite lucky that he managed to pull off more than he didn't. Because there was one chance where I think it was their right wing back. Can't remember who was playing actually at the time, but they played the ball across and played him through, and he just didn't take a touch. He just thrashed at it, similar to all these other chances, but he essentially fell over.
Yeah, it was
Now,
Bentancur picked the ball up and ran down the right.
Yeah, so it's one of those where has Son played so emotionally and actually it's come up trumps for him more often than not. If he continues to play like that, is it actually going to work out for him, or is he going to have a few more stumbles than actual successes because he was just shooting from everywhere, and that doesn't really spell goals most of the time, does it?
It doesn't. I think a lot of wildcard teams that I've seen have got the threemium. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's the very, very, very highbrow pun of 3 premiums. But like it's about getting Kane and Haaland in. That's what a lot of people have been going for. So I think he's actually an option if you wanted to go down the Haaland, Son, and then either KDB or Salah, whatever where you wanted to go. My gut instinct would probably be to go for KDB and then Diaz, something like that. And then you can get in other strikers because the last couple of shows we've done, I've said how good those sort of mid-range strikers can be. I know that none of them really hit this week, but of course they didn't. Like, imagine if Mitrovic got 38 goals in a season, or Ivan Toney got 38 goals in a season. Off your rocker. If Harry Kane got 25, you'd be like, oh, that's good. Yeah. So that means that for at least 13 games, he's not going to score in Harry Kane if he's got 25 goals this season. So what's your expectation from Mitrovic and Toney, etc.? Like, I think in the teams that they're playing in, they could be getting 18, 19 goals, maybe 20 at a push. That means a bare minimum, if they did get 20, 18 games, they're going to have to blank in. So it's about half. That's just if they've got one a game, not even multiples, what players do. So, yeah, it's a bit of a nonsense if you're going to kick off because a player didn't score in a game. Like, what do you expect? Obviously, it's just a bit gutting when none of like them two didn't hit together. If you've got them both, and then Isaac, because obviously lots of people went with him as well. He got a penalty to sort of save everyone else's blushes because it didn't really have too much of a chance other than that. 9-pointer, get in, get in. So yeah, and obviously Gabriel Jesus got 6 points. So it's about just trying to realize that if you've got 2 of them, it's just if one of them can hit and Haaland's going to hit every week, that's kind of all you've got to really go for. And obviously just a bit unlucky if you've got Toney, Mitrovic and Haaland and then Toney and Mitro blanked. It's one of them things.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be rare that all 3 of your strikers, if you are playing 3 up front, it is very rare that all 3 of your strikers are going to get more than 3 points every week. It just doesn't happen. You should anyway feel successful if you'd like two out of 3.
Yeah.
Manage to come away with a goal or 2. And obviously this week was one of those weeks. Unless you had Jesus or like a combination of Jesus, Haaland and Kane, which I think is slightly unrealistic when you look at the different price points that there are and the way teams are structured. But there will be teams out there because, I mean, you got people who, I'm sure time machines exist when you look at certain teams because it just looks like they can predict the future.
Yeah. I think it's a testament how bad my team is when all 3 of my strikers got returns and I got a red arrow.
Wow.
That's how bad the rest of them are.
I mean, we can talk about that later because I can see you're already gritting your teeth, like steam coming out of your ears. I'm quite chill about the whole thing now, to be honest. If this was like game week 2 or 3, I would have been sitting here like quietly raging. But sadly, like this is just like part and parcel of this season so far. So very chill now. Anyway, we are now going to have a little look at a certain team who are bottom of the league. You mentioned them before. They are statistically the worst defence that the Premier League has seen after 7 games. They are Leicester City. They've conceded 22 goals, I should say.
Oh, that's a lot of games in 7 games.
Oh yes, oh yeah, conceding all of the games. Now, are they going to be shit forever until they get rid of Rodgers? Because the problem is, I've heard that Leicester are struggling with money, and there's like a 10 million payout on Rodgers, and they might not want to pay that. They might. So are they just going to like steer into the skid and just come out worse off?
Yeah, I think until he bites the bullet and changes his goalkeeper, I know that Son's first 2 weren't really his fault, but Son's third was definitely his. And I've seen other mistakes that he's made throughout the season, and I don't think he's a keeper that the defence feel comfortable playing in front of. So get the other lad in, Iverson. Just there's your first change that needs to be made. And when I do wildcard, if Iverson's still 3.9 or 3.8, whatever he is at the time, if he's under 4, I'll be going for him just for when it inevitably happens. But yeah, to answer your question, I can't see them improving while Rodgers is there. I think from what I've heard of ex-pros, he's a deeply unlikable character and yet a fantastic coach. So it seems to be the general consensus that he's an absolute world beater when it comes to his philosophy, his coaching methods, his tactics, but he's just a dick. So
that sounds like a former Chelsea manager that I know.
Yes, it does sound like a former Chelsea manager. So I think sometimes it just comes to a point where players need a new voice anyway for coaching. They become predictable to play against, but then obviously, if I don't know, but whether they get on with them or not, but it doesn't seem like any of them are very happy playing there. That being said, I still think assets from Leicester are still okay, not defensively. Get your head checked if you're looking at a Leicester defender, other than, like I say, the backup goalkeeper because he's 3.9 million. But I think, and just to use my time traveling future skills, like as you just previously mentioned, I've got a feeling you're going to ask about James Maddison here. So, yes, James Maddison still, of course, he's an option. He can score in any game. He's on free kicks anyway. He's on some set pieces. And he's by far their best player, especially going forward anyway. Nottingham Forest up next at home, then Bournemouth, then Palace, then Leeds, then Wolves. Next 5 games. Get Jimbo in your team.
Jimbo, is that what he's now?
He's
officially called Jimbo in our show now.
Yes.
I mean, it'll be so much more likable when he actually joins us in January, and Jimbo catches on, because that Jimbo sounds like just a nice friend that you'd want to go and have a pint with, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to say, he's 7.9 million, so he's dropped 0.1 since the start of the season.
Yeah.
I do think there's value then in Maddison, absolutely. Even though they're terrible defensively, they're scoring goals, and Maddison seems to always be involved. There was a lovely moment in the Leicester game where he just doesn't take a touch. The ball comes to him, and he just flicks it, and he puts like an early cross in, and I think it's Iheanacho or Daka, I think it might have been, tries a glancing header, but I think he either narrowly goes wide or hits the post. But it would have been a beautiful assist. It would have been incredible. Oh, actually no, I'm thinking of his goal. Tell a lie. It was the goal that the goal he takes first time.
Yeah.
He just curls straight in the bottom corner. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Talking rubbish about an assist, because that never happened.
He had no right to score, did he? That's what he can do. And that's when, when you're up against weaker opposition. The one thing I'd say about the Nottingham Forest game is they're defensively awful as well, but they've got a good goalkeeper. So could be a frustrating one where he's pulling out worldies left, right, and centre, and you're just pulling your hair out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as well as Leicester conceding quite a lot of goals, Brentford have also done that recently this game week. Whereas a few weeks ago we were talking up Brentford players on a wild card or as getting transferred in. Brentford goalkeeper like Rhea were really kind of hot property in terms of FPL. Now it doesn't look like that's the case anymore. Are Brentford really bad now, or were Arsenal just very good this week?
Arsenal were just really good. There was moments of the game where Brentford looked the better team. Outpassing Arsenal, just for like little pockets of the game. But yeah, I don't think that they were fully on it today. But I also don't think it was because they were bad. I think Arsenal played very, very well. The top of the league for a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would not panic at all. They've got some lovely fixtures coming up. Brentford as well for the forward players in Bournemouth away, Newcastle away, Brighton again. Brighton are this unknown quantity now. Chelsea, unknown quantity. And then you've got Villa, Wolves, Nottingham Forest, or before I think it's Man City for that match day 16. But to be fair, you fancy Ivan Toney to score in every single one of those. Obviously, he won't. He's not going to score in every single game. But if I said, oh, yeah, Ivan Toney scored against Man City, you wouldn't be surprised. So, yeah, I think they've got good fixtures going forward. I wouldn't be going for defenders, personally, not with the teams that they're playing. But, yeah, I think you could get in either Wissa, who I believe is a midfielder, or Toney. They'd be... I know that Wissa didn't play at the weekend, so keep an eye on him. And they've got the new lad that's came in as well. So there's a few options for Brentford. They're not bad. They just had one off day playing against a team that forced them to have an off day because Arsenal are excellent.
Yeah, I totally agree. Brentford will be a side that will finish like mid-table, I think, again. They were one of the teams that I was kind of picking to potentially get relegated at the start of the year. Like that's that fabled second season syndrome where they lost Ericsson. I thought they wouldn't have had any creativity, but they've totally proven that wrong. They are still quite a very strong side. And like you say, on the day, Arsenal were just by far the better team. And nobody can blame Brentford for kind of rolling over a little bit. So yeah, speaking of Arsenal though, do you think they could mount a title challenge then?
Challenge, yes. I don't think they're going to win it though. I don't think they'll have the legs, especially once they've firmly stuck into Thursday, Sunday, deep into the competition when Champions League teams go into the Europa League. Going to have to make a decision. I think they've got a good chance of winning the Europa League because I think they're just a really good team. And I think 100% feel like they're going to be finishing top four. Potter's got a job to turn Chelsea around, but they do look stronger than Tottenham and they do look obviously way stronger than Man United. They're currently looking stronger than Liverpool and they've got more squad depth than Liverpool. But I just don't think they've got the depth as a Man City. I think, you get... Zinchenko's already injured, isn't he? So if Tierney gets injured, you're already looking... And then in the middle, if Thomas Partey gets injured, they look a lot more frail in there. That Lokonga kid is nowhere near Premier League level.
The thing is, you could say that about many teams. Like the most successful teams historically have been the ones that have avoided injuries the most.
Yeah.
Like you look at that Leicester team that won in, was it 2009, 2010 or something? Was it even, no, that was way later than that.
2015, I think it was.
Yeah, it was 15. And they I don't think they had many injuries that year. They were able to play the same centre-back pairing every week. So yeah, I think if Arsenal do avoid injuries and the likes of Martinelli keep performing, there's no reason why they can't. I think they learned a lot from last year. They still are quite a young team. And obviously that disappointment of missing out on the Champions League, I think has made them a bit stronger mentally, you'd like to think. I mean, saying that, Spurs have been missing out on all sorts, and that hasn't made them much stronger. But
I think as well, obviously just having a full pre-season under the belts is going to be helping them. I think they could finish second. If they finish second, I wouldn't be surprised. If they beat Man City to the league, I'd be gobsmacked.
Yeah, same as me. I think it's just not out of the realms of possibility for me. It's definitely something that could happen. So yeah, and the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So obviously we all know that there's been a spell of no football recently. The Fantasy Premier League app or website was still kind of running as if things hadn't changed. The only thing was that there was no points added into the system. That meant that teams who had a wild card just kind of let it carry on and they got it again the next week. But because nothing happened, or sorry, even though nothing happened that week, and nobody should have really been making transfers, arguably,
Yeah.
the price changes still occurred, which was really bizarre. Which
Yes.
meant that if you did have the luxury of having essentially a 2 week wild card, you received a bit more of a benefit there by trying to catch rises. So you've potentially got a much stronger team now than what you would have done previously. I know that's the whole point of a wild card, but normally you would just get that 1 week to
Yeah.
take advantage. Now, I understand that you had a bit of a nightmare with these price rises, and because they weren't paused, and because you didn't want to kind of make early transfers, you were burned, and you are quite upset about it.
But it
So
doesn't sound
tell
upset. I'd
everyone
say
your troubles.
seething. Like it's more of an anger thing and a frustration thing because, I mean, when you look at the price changes anyway, like the algorithms are still what they used to be when the game first started, and there was like 2 million people playing the game. Now there's 10 million. I mean, loads of those. If you ever look on who's winning, like match day weeks or whatever, it's always someone like Malaysia or something that set up a team to try and win it for a week or whatever, for whatever reason. Because even when you use chips, you can't win any of the prizes. So I don't know why people do it. But that being said, there needs to be like a change to how volatile the price changes are anyway, how often they change, because people got lives. And it's just frustrating when you look on the next morning and someone's rise or someone's fallen, and you just think like, what? Why is this a thing? And it's obviously because they want people to go to the site all the time to make the changes, to panic, to look at it. Or someone might rise tonight, so let's get someone in, or someone might fall, so I'm going to sell them. And it's one of those things that we kind of just have to accept. That's the way that the creators want to do it. But when you have obviously got the death of the Queen, which meant that loads of games got postponed, as we all know. But then we're in the middle of obviously the rail strikes, all this sort of stuff. But through it all, there wasn't really anything clear about when the next set of fixtures would go ahead.
Yeah,
And then the fact that obviously they've even said, well, half of them are now were postponed for this week because of various things, because of security issues. I still don't know what's happening, like as far as like the funeral and all those sorts of things goes. Obviously, that's not for club football, but just in general with football. So why I don't understand why they didn't do a price freeze, because they are doing it for the World Cup. So when the World Cup comes on and we all get to change our teams, there's going to be no price rises. That's been set, and I think
yeah,
that's a clever thing to do, obviously. So why not in that moment say, well, look, we don't know when these games are going to go ahead. If they do go ahead, we don't know which games are going to go ahead. Obviously, people have used wildcards, so I do think it's absolutely fair to reinstate people's wildcards or extend that period to the following game, which is what I think they did. Um, I think that's totally fair, and I've not got a problem with it at all. But if you're going to do that, you've just given them the advantage if you don't freeze the price changes.
yeah,
And yeah, though, like I was looking at certain moves, and I was just getting like if I'd go on the next day, I was like, all right, I've been priced out with this double. And especially when there's Champions League football being played, like you don't want to be making transfers when you are looking to transfer in people that play in the Champions League, or if you're looking to transfer out, or you have players that you may need to transfer out, people that play in the Champions League or the Europa League. So I looked to get in Edison and Cancelo this week, and I had the exact money, to do it. And obviously, I had to wait until the Arsenal game was done for the Europa League, because once that game's done, then obviously I can go, right, that's fine. I know that my Arsenal boys aren't injured, because if Martinelli or Jesus get injured, I'm screwed. So I was just having to wait to see if that even went ahead, all that sort of stuff, which obviously I didn't know. Gets to Thursday, and obviously Cancelo's price has risen again. I think it's risen again since. And it's just a bit frustrating because obviously you've lost 8 points from it. Obviously, I get someone else and they didn't do very well. But yeah, I just don't think it's like, I just think there's like a lack of thought from the people that run the game.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, as well, though, it shows how archaic the game is, because you even look back at when coronavirus first hit and they postponed everything. And at that time, if you'd played your wild card that week, I know they gave everyone another one anyway, I think.
Free
But
hit to give
yeah,
everyone.
it was another free hit or something like that. But if you'd played your wild card when in March, when everything was initially called off, they if you'd played a chip that week, it was gone. They couldn't
Oh yeah, but
reinstate
it
it.
happened. Yeah, it was another
But
wild card. You're right. It was
yeah,
that first one. It was
so
another wild card. Yeah.
so those people totally lost out because everyone ended up getting another one anyway, and they couldn't use that wild card that week in March 2020. They couldn't. It was just gone. It was like over. And at least now, this time round, they've like they've come a little bit forward and said, "Oh well, we will let you have it for this week as well." Because if it was the same, still the same great minds behind COVID, anyone who played the wild card like last week would have been totally screwed.
Yeah.
So I do think the game's got a lot to think about in terms of because we've not had a normal season now for 3 years. Like we've had 2 years of COVID, and then now we've had 1 year which has been interrupted by a Monhockey's death. Like we've not had one traditional season where you might have, say, one or two like bulks of double game weeks.
Yeah, like someone gets snowed off, something like that.
Yeah, you might have one. Yeah, you might have one odd postponement, but the only postponements normally you'd get would be due to cup games. Um, I mean, the good old days, like it's
Yeah.
mad. That's like 3 years. That's not happened. It looked like it would have been the case this year, but it's not to be. Um, so yeah, I do think the game needs to have a good think about how it deals with these things because it's happening more frequently, and for some reason, games are getting called off much more frequently now as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
rant
personally
over.
feel like, obviously, I'm probably a bit biased. I don't know. In fact, I'll ask you, Matt. Do you prefer the Premier League, Fantasy Premier League transfers, like updates in terms of price changes for how often they happen, or do you prefer the Champions Leagues?
I've got to say the Champions League, I love that. I love the way that game runs. So for anyone who doesn't know what the Champions League game's like, it's the same as what the Euro Fantasy was. So the likelihood is some people might have played that game. Um, the price rises only occur like after
Once.
game week 2, and then that's it. And they might come up like they might go up like zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2.
It's
So it's
it's based on form. Obviously, I'm not bothered about like if what it's based on, when there's transfers in, transfers out, whatever. That happened once, and it's one when the deadline goes for the game week. So, for example, this week it was Friday 6:30. Was that the deadline? So
yes,
Friday
it
at
would have
half
been.
six, all of the price changes would happen, and then they wouldn't occur until the next deadline for the next game week.
Hmm. It's just
And then you
amazing. It
can't have
works.
people just capitalizing on price rises, because I just think it benefits like people that don't have family responsibilities in terms of looking after someone else like yourself, or maybe people with different types of jobs. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it favors other people. So I just don't think it's like very fair.
I
That's my
think.
rant over, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the whole structuring in terms of being able to make subs, it makes like the whole having a good bench, and like it means the bench is used more, so it's not just something that could just be totally wasted. It adds like a new layer. So if I don't know, in the first set of fixtures, if somebody blanks, you can like
Take them out.
sub them for somebody on your bench who you think's going to do well. You can swap your captain for the second day. It just means that it's much more enjoyable. There's more. So if you're a massive failure like me, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to fail twice, which is just it's nice to have that opportunity at least. So
You do
yeah,
well in the Champions League, aren't you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I did really well the first week, and then me and you both went like away from the crowd, and we wild carded when everyone else did a limitless wild card, which meant everyone could. I mean, we're turning this into a UCL podcast,
Yes.
but I mean, this is right up your street. Obviously, a limitless wild card means that you can bring in players, um, obviously for 1 week, like a free hit in FPL, but there's no price limit, so you could take advantage of like really strong fixtures, like Man City playing Dortmund and who had Plazenia, Inter. So there was a lot of
Lasagna, yeah.
yeah. So we went away from that, didn't we? And we just normally wild card and probably lost out on about on average about 20 points behind everybody else.
Is good. That's exactly what I want. 15 to 20 point loss on a limitless is quality when hopefully I'll be using mine when Man City have Copenhagen and Bayern Munich have Plzeň.
And I mean, coincidentally, I will also be doing the exact same thing because you totally talked me round to it. But yeah, so enough about that anyway. We'll talk about our fantasy Premier League game weeks just briefly because we did terribly. So we'll just gloss over it. I have gone back down again. I was inside the top 2 million at one point after the 3 o'clock games. So I was teased into thinking that I was going to do okay. I only played 9 players. I took a hit, took out Gabriel Jesus, which was a bit of a nightmare because he totally killed me. Ended up on 46 points, 50 minus 4. I got a 2-pointer from Pope. My Man City lads did amazing. I got 9 from Cancelo. I obviously I played Trent and Cucurella, who obviously got a 0 because he didn't play. Then I had KDB's 10. Martinelli got his 3. Paqueta got his 2. I feel like that's going to be a bit of a poor transfer, to be honest, now, thinking about it after the way he played today. Andreas got his 1 because he got booked, which just kind of summed everything up. Haaland got 12, and Mitro got his 2, and the lovely Swedish Dream got his 9. So overall, Red Arrow, plenty of returns, but just not as many as everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a nightmare. What about you, mate? How did you get on?
51 all out, Red Arrow to 2.494 million. So let's just call that 2.5 million. I had Edison in goal, who I did manage to bring in for his 6-pointer. Instead of Cancelo, I went for 1-point hero Ryan Sessegnon.
Woo!
6 goals against Leicester, and he couldn't get an attack in return, and conceded 2. I mean, Davinson Sanchez is an absolute weapon at the back. Like, he is rough. Give the ball away twice, and then the most ridiculous foul for the pen. As soon as that happened, I was just seething. Williams with a point. Nico Williams. Oh, I managed to get 11 players out, and I didn't wild card. So I didn't take any hits.
Oh well.
So it's like this wouldn't have been a team I would have liked to have started, but beggars can't be choosers. Trippier for 5 points, obviously because we had to concede, didn't we? Almiron for 2. I can't wait to get rid of him. Martinelli for 3. He did nothing to team. Mr. Sitter as well. Kulusevski for 5. Obviously, again, 6 goals and he can get 1 assist. It was cracking assist, to be fair.
He's amazing, him, by the way. Amazing player.
Andreas Pereira for 1 point. Obviously scored 3 goals, can't get an attack in return, but can concede and can get a yellow card, clearly. And then my boys up front, Haaland with 12 points because I captained him. And I deserve that because all week I've been banging on about how I was going to captain Isak for his 9. And I bottled it, so I deserve to get less points. I deserve it for being a bottle job. For being Tottenham Hotspur personified. And then I've got Gabriel Jesus for 6 points because he got a bonus, but he got booked as well. So 51 points all out, and I'll be wildcarding because I'm sick of the sight of this lot.
So yeah, so spoiler, we haven't really talked about what is going to happen next week, or the international break's going to happen next week.
Yes.
But in a couple of weeks, we haven't really talked about what we want to do with our teams because Dan's just mentioned he's going to wildcard. So we're going to talk a bit more in depth. We're going to let Dan have a bit of thinking time, and we'll have a nice discussion about what Dan's going to do on his wildcard when that time comes. So that'll be the next installment. So to be continued.
Yeah.
Right. We've got another little new installment that we're going to try and make a weekly thing. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge between me and you. Now, we're going to take turns each week. We're going to take turns choosing 3 players. And the idea is the other person's got to try and put them in order of who has the most points. Okay, so from most to least points. And you get a point if you are able to do it correctly. Okay, so sound good? I'm going to go first because I'm actually prepared and I did it. So are we ready?
Yes.
I'm going to flip my page over because I do have notes. We have got Daniel Podence of Wolves.
Okay.
Fabian Schär, the beautiful Fabian Schär of Newcastle United, and Reece James. Put
Right.
them in order.
I'm going to go Fabian Schär, most points. Daniel Podence, second most points. Reece James, the least amount of points. So that's Schär, then Podence, then James.
The suspense. Hey, I tell you what, mate, you only just nailed that, didn't you? Absolutely nailed it. I tried to make that tricky as well. What on earth's happened there? Put loads of pressure on me next time then.
Yeah.
Oh, what have I done?
Yeah, you got to get out that fast as well. Can't be sat here thinking about it for ages.
So, yeah, so you were right. Fabian Schär has 29 points so far this season.
Well, he's
Daniel
got a goal,
Podence,
like loads of clean sheets, hasn't he? So that
yeah.
was obvious. And then for the Podence versus James thing, I was like, well, James has to be the bottom. That's why you put him in there. But also Podence, has he got a goal and an assist this season?
Something like that, yeah. So he's got 28 points. So he's only one behind Schär.
James has got like a goal, but like he's getting they're conceding goals left, right, and centre, and he gets yellow cards every game.
Yeah, so he's on 23, like an absolute flop. Absolute flop. So yeah, that was the game. Now all I've done is put massive amount of pressure on myself to try and win next time. 1-0 you. Well done. Well done, Daniel.
Yeah, this is passive aggressive at all. Well done, Daniel. Congratulations.
Oh God. Right. So anyway, mini league. Right, mini league update before we go.
What about people that are doing well in this game? For the love of Christ.
Yeah, we do need some people. We do need some good news because people have just had to sit and listen to us moan about price changes and God knows what.
I can't wait to use my wild card just so I can capitalize on price changes for the next 2 weeks.
Such a hypocrite.
Yes.
So the team called Joe Linton's Lads, who is managed by Callum McDonald, he is currently first. He did a whole madness this week. He bought Son, right? So even
get in.
Essentially, yeah, super jam. Then he did what you didn't have the balls to do. Captained Isak for his 9-pointer. So he beat everyone with Haaland captain, and he got Heung-min Son. There's just no words. He got 66 points this week. He's currently on 497 altogether. Just great work. Great work.
Is that like 397 points more than us?
And probably that.
So yeah,
on that sad whimper of a note, I think that's
well done, mate.
Yeah, well done you. Well done you. Pats on the back all round. Next week then we will have a bit of an update on your wildcard. Exciting times. It's about time you used that. God, wildcards were so like 5 weeks ago.
I know. So game week 4. So game week 2 if your name's Matt.
But that didn't come back to haunt me. Yeah, I think game week 3. Yeah.
Absolutely spunked your load there.
Yeah.
I bet you still had it though.
Oh yeah, I mean, how could I not have predicted real strikes and the Queen's death? I mean, that was just stupidity, wasn't it, on my part?
Be tweeting these time travelers.
Of course. Well, on that note, we are going to say goodbye. Good luck over the international break, watching lots and lots of football and not really caring that much about it. Bye.
See you later, everyone.